welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Oh, amen.
And we are, of course, we're actually doing Genesis. We had finished doing the Rashi and the Torah parts of Bahar. And so here we are in Genesis, moving slowly along in the chapter 2. Doing Torah Temimah, which, as you know, is quite intense. So here we are having this. This actually is a famous passage, and it's talking about where God will make a helpmate for Adam. Right? It's not good for a man, to be by himself. Amar Rabbi Elazar, said Rabbi Elazar, Mai dichtiv eselo ezer kenegdo. What does it mean when it says, I will make a ezer, a help, kenegdo, opposite him? Zacha, if he merits, or zarto, she helps him. Lo zacha, if he is not, he doesn't merit, kenegdo, she is going to oppose him. And it doesn't end there. Ika de Amre, there are those who hold Rabbi Eliezer Rami, that Rabbi Eliezer actually, Rami means to throw something. In other words, to raise a contradiction, right? Or to raise two opposites. Ketiv kenegdo, it's written in the Torah as kenegdo, ukrinan kenigdo. However, we can read this kenegdo as kenigdo. And that means she flogs him. Zacha, so if he is worthy, kenegdo, then she is his partner, right? She is together with him. Lo zacha, but if he is not worthy, menigdato, she flogs him. She gives him flogs. Okay. Mem Gimel. Lefanenu katuv v'nikra b'segol. In actual fact, of course, we don't read it as kenigdo. It's both written as if it were, and it's read as well as a segol. With a segol is an air sound. Here is an example of a segol, right? So here's another segol. And if you want to look at the actual place where God says this, we can see it. Okay, hold on a second. And there we are, kenegdo, there it is. There's the segol he's referring to. V'nir'eh, and it appears, tam hadrashahu al derech asmachta. And that, so it would appear that the reasoning behind this particular interpretation is by way of an allusion. It's showing that it could be alluded to in this way. Mishum de harbe pa'alim, and there's a reason, because there are many verbs, haktuvim bli otiot, which are written without the vowels, hanikud, otiot hanikud, without vowels, because we know that when we open up a Sefer Torah, there are no vowels in the Sefer Torah. If shar likra'am gam b'sigol, it would be possible to read this verb either with a sigol, the way we are here, gam bechirik, or with an e sound. A chirik is simply a dot. Here is a chirik right there. A dot Elohim. It's the e sound. That's a chirik. Okay. Lachain, and so it just makes it a different kind of verb. Lachain, and for this reason, darshinan shnehem, and for this reason, we interpret it both ways, because you could read the word both ways. V'kavanat halashon ukrinan kenigdo, and the intention of this expression, and we actually pronounce it as kenigdo. Why does it say it like that? Klomar, that is to say, she'efshar likrot gam kenigdo. It's not that one does read it as kenigdo, but it's possible. And what it means is it's possible to read this as kenigdo. Ukahaya gavna darshinan b'makot zayin bet, and in a similar kind of way, we interpret in the tractate Makot, page 7b, hapasuk, that verse, the Parshat Shoftim, which is found in Parshat Shoftim, which is in Deuteronomy. Nashal habarzel min ha'etz, that's where it's talking about manslaughter, and it says that the iron fell off from, came separated from the wood. We're talking about an axe, and where a person is lifting up the axe ready to chop, and when he lifts up the axe head falls off and strikes another person and kills them. Gam kamo, but we could also read it as kamo v'nishal, not just v'nashal, but v'nishal. Ye'uyanshan, and there the nishal means that it when you chopped into the wood, okay, when it says nishal min ha'etz, right? V'nishal habarzel min ha'etz, we can then understand it as, and the iron caused the wood to break into small pieces and fly away. And obviously, again, a situation where in doing that, and the little pieces, the chips killed someone, then we're reading it as nishal. And the eitz here in the first case means the wood hatchet, the handle of the hatchet, but here it could mean that he's chopping wood, and this is the wood that we're talking about. Ye'uyan sham bevi'ur shalem. There you can check it out with a complete explanation. Hara'ui l'tzaref lakan, which in fact could also be attached to this particular section as well. Uma shehichrichu bichlal lidrosh kenka. And the fact that that our sages even felt a need in general to explain this here. Near mishum, it could be, and this is interesting, mishum de pal neged, that when we look at this verb neged, okay, opposite, matzinu b'chol hamikra, if you look throughout the rest of Scripture, b'shimush lamed, the word lamed, neged la is what it says, and here, so he gives you all these examples, shiviti Hashem, and there's the lamed, lenegdi. I have set the Lord before me. There's one example. That's Psalm, I think it's Psalm 17 or 16. Another example, called Kichol Mishpatav Lenegdi, right? There's the la, right? Not ke, but la. That all his statutes are before me. Ba'od Rasha lenegdi, another example, as long as the wicked is before me. Ba'olotecha lenegdi, and your whole offerings are before me. Lo samu Elohim lenegdam. They did not place God before themselves. They did not think of God, in other words. Shata avonotenu, you have set our iniquities lenegdecha, before you. Vehine, or all these examples, right? It's just giving example after example. Vehine omed lenegdi, from the book of Daniel, right? And behold, he was standing before me. Ve'od harbe, and a lot more as well. Uveshimush od kaf, however, using ezer kes something, lo matzinu, we have not found, we do not find this. Ela b'makom zeh. This is the only place where we find the word neged associated with ka. Umider chazal, and it was typical of our sages of blessed memory, lidrosh teva oot, to interpret a word or a letter, mitsuyenet, okay, that was sort of an unusual or an exceptional letter in this way, betchunata batanach, right? In its particular sorry, I'm missing now. I did not look up this word, tchuna, batanach. Must be, I'll have to look this up. I'm so sorry. When I was preparing, I did not think of that. Okay. Ot mitzuyenet betchunata. So it probably means a letter that is unusual in its usage, right, in the Tanakh. Kefi sheyitbaer, which will be explained im Yirtzeh Hashem, God willing, lifanenu, before us, behemshech hachibur, within the continuation of this particular essay or this composition. Okay, onwards. Vayiven, so this is what God does. Vayiven. So it says, and literally Vayiven means he built, right? He built. Pligi ba Rav Ushmuel. Rav and Shmuel disagreed over how this was to be interpreted. This word Vayiven, to build. Chad Amar. So one of them said Partsuf. One of them said that it was a complete form but attached to Adam. V'chad Amar Zanav, and one said that it was from his tailbone, that he formed it from the tailbone. V'leman Amar, and with regard to the one who holds Zanav, that God built this from the tailbone. My vayisager basar tachtena. Let's take a look at it. Okay, let's find it. Vayisgor basar tachtena. There it is. Right. So why does it say he closed up the flesh underneath it? And we'll need to understand what is going on here. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, said Rabbi Yirmiyah, lo nitzracha ela lemakom chatach. The only place where God had to bring the flesh or put the flesh together again was at the cut, where God then severed the Eve from Adam. Let's take a look at what this is trying to say. Okay, I think this is what will be helpful is this Torah Temimah here. Manda Amar Patsuf, for the one whose opinion is that he made a Partsuf, Ritzonor Lomar, that what he is meaning to say is She'od Guf Haya Bo Vechelko Lishnayim. So what he's saying is that Adam had another, he was basically, you may have seen those pictures of hermaphrodites where one is facing or one has its back to the other. And that Adam himself was created as a hermaphrodite. And what God did was he severed Eve from Adam at that point. And then the story goes that brought them to face each other. Right. So there's some very highly literary notions going on. But that's what we mean by Partsuf. In other words, imagine Adam actually being two people, being Adam and Eve, and that what God did was he sliced down the middle and separated Eve from Adam. Umanda Amar, however, the one who is of the opinion Zanav, that we're talking about a tail, right? Perusho, what this means is Shechaticha basar yetera hayata dvukabo, that there was an additional piece of flesh that was attached to him. In other words, there was simply another piece which he didn't need. He didn't really require it. Okay. Umimena, and from it, nivra'a chava, and that Eve was actually formed out of this appendage that he had that he didn't really require. Uparich lamanda amar zeh, and with regard to the difficulty, the contradiction that is being presented to the one who holds this opinion, my vayisager basar tachtena, why does it say he closed up the flesh underneath it? Hala haya chaser klum. He didn't have to close up anything because he wasn't missing anything. umashni lemakom hachatav. And for that reason, it says simply the place where the incision was made. Yes, Lauren.
Does that translate a chava as appendage?
Yes.
So is that what Eve means?
No, no. Chava is actually mentioned. Adam calls her Chava. It's related to the word Chaya, because she was like the mother of all living things.
So that's just coincidence.
Yes, yes.
And while I'm stopped, this is
Just hold
just
on a second. Okay. It just says from this, yeah, Eve was created from that appendage. Right. Go ahead,
yeah,
please.
but I'm just responding to it says chava.
Yes, it does. That's correct.
But the other question I have is just a brief grammar question, I think, but why it says chad instead of echad for one?
Where are we talking about?
Um,
I can think I could. Okay, go ahead, please.
yeah, don't move it because you just
All
okay.
right.
Well, yeah, it's at the top of the page that you're sharing.
This one
And let's see, I
here.
think no, it was up in the bigger print, and you just moved. There you go. There it is under your own writing.
Okay. Okay.
Chad Amar.
Right. Okay. That's I think it's an Aramaism. I think Echad would be Hebrew, Chad would be Aramaic.
Okay.
I believe that would be the correct answer to that question. Yes. That it is an Aramaism. Let's take a little bit more. Vayiven. So here we go. Another on this word Vayiven. Darash Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh interpreted, "My dichtiv vayiven Hashem et hatzela." By the way, this is really a lovely explanation, right? So it says that God built literally hatzela, the tzela. And this word tzela can be understood in more than one way. But let's see, since there's a footnote here, let's take a look at that footnote. Near it would appear to Midayek that Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh is noting, okay, paying special attention to Bechol Maaseh Bereshit, that with reference to all of creation, Bechol HaNivraim, everywhere where something is created, Kativ Rak Lashon Yetzira. There, the verb used is Yetzira or Yatzar, or Bria or Bara. The Hachinami, and so here too, Hava le lemor, it should, or lomar, Hava le lomar, it should have said, Vayivra, it should have said, he created, or Vayitzer Hashem, or Vayatzar Hashem. In other words, the word yatzar refers to like a potter forming something, right? Whereas bara is creating something essentially out of nothing, creating a whole new thing. So it should have used that. Min hatzela et haisha. From this tsela, the isha. And we know we've said this before that the word tsela can either mean rib or it can mean side as well. So let's take a look here. Let's keep going. So that's the point he's saying is the basis of this. Why is he saying the word vayiven and he didn't say vayivra or vayatzar? Melamed. So it says, this is what it teaches you, shekla'ah hakadosh baruch hu lechava, that in fact that the Holy One, blessed be He, braided her hair, v'hevia la'adam, and He brought her to Adam. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the word for braid is slaot, and I'm not certain that it's spelt with an ayin as well, or whether it's spelt with an aleph. But the point is, if it's spelt with an ayin, then it's like, and God created, and if tsela means a braid, that's another way of understanding it. But as I said, it could be wrong as far as how that's spelled. So that God braided Eve's hair for Hevia Adam and then presented her to Adam. Shekain bekarchei hayam. Oh, here we go. Okay, right. That because in the cities of the sea, In other words, in the various ports of the Mediterranean, I imagine he's talking about, Corinne Lecliata, okay, they refer to braiding as beniyata, see, livnot, right? So they use the word beniyata as a word that means braiding in the context, right? When you're making braids. Let's take a look here. Yitachen, it would appear, deromez lama shekatuv beketuvot nun tet bet. It is an allusion to what is written in the tractate Ketuvot, page 59b. Ein isha ella layofi. A woman is literally, it means a woman is what is nothing but or is only for beauty. But it doesn't, that's not the way to understand it. But what it's saying is an essential element, I would say, of femininity is beauty. That's the way I would understand it. Just simply as it's an essential way. It's just the way in which Hebrew expresses this. And we have to be careful about taking idioms literally. We'd be in trouble. But that's essentially what it means, is that an essential part of a woman has to do with beauty. Ve'yefei ha'isha hi kliat sa'ara. And one of those elements that of beautification for a woman is the braiding of her hair. And you know that while that's not necessarily part of our culture, it's certainly a major part of other cultures where we see braids, all kinds of fascinating types of braids on women. So this is reflective of that. Demehai ta'ama, and for this reason, sotrin et sa'ar isha sota. And it's for this reason that in Parshat Naso, we read about how they rumple the hair of a woman who's considered suspected of adultery, kedei linavla, in order to make her look ugly. As will be explained before us ahead in Parshat Naso in the book of Numbers. V'ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Holy One, blessed be He, wanted l'ha'amida lifnei Adam betumata. He wanted to present her to Adam in all her perfection. V'lachen kala l'sara, and for this reason, God braided her hair. There's something I think really charming, I would say. I might have a better word than that, but charming about the idea of the divine creator creating, help braiding Eve's hair, and possibly how important it is in terms of from a universal kind of view for the partners and for Adam to have found her just so attractive and to fall in love with her. V'yesh lahosif od, and one can add in addition, bi'ur ma shelo tziva shetikala la'atzma, and you could add also, there's a point you could make that God didn't command her to braid herself. He never told her to braid her own hair. Mishum, because the Amrinan b'Shabbat Tzadik Hey Aleph, because we say in the Tractate Shabbat, page 95a, Hagodelet, right? One who, and this means Kolat Sarah b'Shabbat, one who braids herself, her hair on Shabbat, La'atzma Petura, if she does it on Shabbat, which is creating something, right? However, if she does it for herself, she is patur. It's not considered a biblical violation. L'chavirta chayevet. However, if she braids her friend's hair, then she is actually violating a law of Shabbat, a biblical law of Shabbat. Upiresh Rashi, and Rashi explains there, La'atzma Petura, the reason why she's not considered liable on Shabbat for braiding her own hair. By the way, I need to say that the word patur doesn't mean that you're allowed to do it. Basically, it usually indicates a rabbinically prohibited decree. the word, because if the terms used are chayav and patur, as we've seen, and the word chayav is understood as obligated to bring a sin offering to make atonement for a biblical violation, and the word patur meaning not having to bring a sin offering, exempt from bringing a sin offering because it's not a biblical violation, but it simply means exempt from bringing a sin offering. It doesn't mean that it's perfectly permissible. Lefi she'eina yechola, and the reason why she's patur is eina yechola livnot yafeh la'atzma, because she isn't able to really braid her own hair as beautifully for herself. Which is not the case, lechavirta, if she's braiding her friend's hair, shero'ah va'osa, because she's able to see exactly what she's doing and makes it. Al-kan l'shano. That's how Rashi explains this. Ulefi ma shekatavnu bekavanat hakadosh baruch hu bepula zo, and in reference to what we're saying in God's intention to do this, to braid her hair, Lo hayadai im kla'a la'atzma. It would not have been sufficient had she simply braided her own hair. Kevan shelo hayta kolat yafeh, because she would not have been able to braid it as beautifully as God braiding it for her. And this is where we're going to leave it for today. Please feel free if there are any comments on this.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Yes. Sorry, I got a slightly late start. I didn't want to take you into the hardware store.
Okay. So I'm still recording, Alec. So
Okay.
did you want to say anything for the record?
Not necessarily for the record. It's just as far as the whole hermaphrodite man-woman thing. I'm sure we could talk later.
Yeah. Right. It's because the word tsela can also mean side as opposed to rib. And in creating the Mishkan and building the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the wilderness, that is the word that's used to refer to the side of the tabernacle. And I'll go ahead and stop
interesting.
Yes. So I'm going to stop the share here and stop the recording.